Here's a question. Are games going to be $100 going forward? And I think this question needs to be answered because it's a very scary situation. So there was an article recently, a few days ago, I read from VGC. Now you probably have read it from other outlets, but I read mine from VGC. And it talked about the prospect of GTA. But there was this speculation that GTA 6 might actually cost $100. Might. Okay. This is all just speculation. But then again, it raises certain concerns because a lot of people believe that if there was such a possibility, Rockstar would jump at the opportunity. Why? GTA is one of the most successful franchises, and GTA 6 is basically, I think, the most anticipated game in this generation. The game might not release in 2025. It may release in 2026. I'm not really seeing the signs that it's going to drop in 2025. However, things may change. Now, this is a game that people have really been looking forward to. Now, they gave us a release window, which is 2025, which is this year, but as I said, it might not drop this year. But this game is so anticipated that everyone knows that if game prices move from $70 to $100, people are still going to buy. Either way, whether the game is $70 or games are still $70 or $100, Rockstar's GTA is safe. But here's the question, what about other developers? You see, there are other developers and there are other publishers that make games that are equally as expensive. Now, it is estimated that there is no proof yet, but there are rumors going about that Rockstar's GTA 6 could actually be estimated to cost about $1 billion, which is insane, making it the most expensive game ever made. But you see, there really isn't any fact or proof to this. And it's not like Rockstar is ever going to give us internal documents of the budget of games, so we would never know. But I do believe the game is quite expensive. And for reference, let's think about GTA 5 that was released back in 2013. GTA 5 released in 2013 with a budget estimated to be over 200 million. And at the time, that was basically the most expensive game ever made in 2013. Now that's a far cry because we've seen games that cost about 200, 250, 300 or even 400. Sometimes even higher than that. And we've seen that visuals and gaming technology has improved over the years, so I can understand why Rockstar might want to spend even more money than they've spent in the last 10 years on the next GTA game. And like I said, this is a game that if Rockstar decide to bump the price to $100, it's really not going to affect them. But what about other games? Now, we had a game called Dragon Age: The Veilguard, a game that was very divisive because of its narrative. But I think a lot of people have issues with the game, which means the game's quality does not really reflect the price. So people might not agree with the price. Imagine a game like that being $100. Let's say Dragon Age: The Veilguard came out in an era where games are about $100. Is that something you think people are going to agree with? And there are games that are probably not feature complete. Now, Spider-Man 2 is going to release on PC very soon. And that game is considered to be feature complete. After all, Sony would not port a game to PC unless it is feature complete. But for comparison, Spider-Man 1 back in 2018, that game released with a budget, 180 million mind. And that game had 3 expansions, while Spider-Man 2 had a budget of over 320 or 350 million depending on the source, but it's over 300 million and has no story expansion and is feature complete. Now let's also talk about another platform. Now this is not a video game, this is a platform. Let's talk about Nintendo. You see, back in 2023, Tears of the Kingdom released and Nintendo decided to release Tears of the Kingdom at a price tag of $70. Which is the industry standard. But here's the thing, the Nintendo Switch is a portable platform. Now, it is in nowhere comparable to consoles like the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox Series consoles. However, They released that game and priced it at $70. And mind you, this is on a platform that can barely run games at a perfect 30 frames per second or any frame rate higher than that. Now, I'm not trying to say that the consoles equally are perfect, but there are arguments to be made there. But why did they do it? The Nintendo president said that when they put into consideration what they were offering, and this happens when you know you have a fan base, they know they are going to win. Rockstar and Nintendo know they are going to win. And with the Switch 2, if Nintendo did this with the Switch 1, what do you think they're going to do with the Switch 2 when it drops? They could price their games, all their games at $70. And if games actually increase to $100, they wouldn't mind. They wouldn't bat an eye because it's not really going to affect them. You see, these people are not really interested in the industry. They know the fact that either way, they can spin the rules in their favor and they are going to win. They are not going to be affected by anything. And this happens as a result of lack of competition, be it from the gaming aspect or the console front. Now let's even talk about Sony. Sony cancelled a lot of live service games. Now this generation, Sony bet big in live service games, and I'm beginning to understand why. You see, with GTA, there was a very long dev cycle between GTA 6, which is yet to come out, and GTA 5, which is about over 10 years. But within that span of time, one other game was released from Rockstar, which is Red Dead Redemption 2. But at the same time, let's look at Sony. Naughty Dog unveiled its next project, which is Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet. Now this game, I don't think is going to drop in 2025, maybe in 2026. One thing I think we should all remember about this game is that this is Naughty Dog's next project. Before this, their previous project was The Last of Us 2, which released in 2020. 6 years. Ghost of Yoti might release this year. I think it's going to release this year. Between that game and the previous game, which is Ghost of Tsushima, that's another 6 years. So you're beginning to see the picture here, or you're beginning to see what I'm trying to say. Sony knew that the dev cycles were going to be longer than before, and it's the same thing with every AAA gaming publisher. It's the same thing within the industry. So they realized that every of their AAA studios are going to have this problem. So how do they satiate all that? Decide to make live service games and invest heavily into live service games. That's what Sony did, and we're beginning to see why there was this heavy investment into live service games. They knew that at the first or the entry point of this current generation, they'll be able to deliver some games, but not a huge slot of games. But it's not enough for you to buy Sony's console. It's not enough for them. It's not enough for you to buy games on their platform. They've seen the power of live service games. They've seen its successes, and they wanted a piece of the pie, which is what almost every publisher wanted. They wanted a piece of that pie. So they decided to make their own live service games. You can invest in their own platform as well. It's not enough for Sony that you play Fortnite on their console. It's not enough for Sony that you play Diablo on their console. It's not enough for Sony that you play Overwatch on their console. No. They want you to play their own live service games on their console to keep you invested within their ecosystem. They have single player games. You play them. Then when you're done, you play their live service games. Do you see how Sony intended to hook you? So here's the question: what is the solution to all this? Because there has to be a solution to all this. The industry cannot sustain itself like this. And the solution is simple: budget cuts. The industry has gotten too big and it has reached its peak. Audiences are not just invested in games the way they used to, because many of them are not as fun as they used to. And some of them have lost the audience's trust. The best option at this point is not to make even bigger games. Is to make small games with great experiences. There is this infatuation with graphics. Now I do not understand why, but there's this need to make the next big cinematic looking masterpiece. Think about EA's upcoming Marvel game, the Captain America and Black Panther game. I've forgotten the title, and honestly, it's not a game I really care about. When I saw that game unveiled last year, the one thing I praised were the visuals. But you see, that's the only thing we're told about the game. The only thing you need to get excited for are two things. It's a Marvel property, and if you like Captain America and Black Panther, you're already invested. And again, it has good visuals. There was very little talk about the gameplay, more about the fact that this game has nice visuals. And you see, this is where the problem begins. These companies actually believe that the best way to sell you a game is to give you the best graphics. That's the game Sony has been playing for so long. Visuals, visuals, visuals. Sure, there is gameplay, but it's mostly the visuals that sell the game. It's not the gameplay that sell you the game. And that's the tactic they've been using for years, and that's what why you think these game companies release some of the worst games you've ever seen? Because they believe it's hyper realistic, it looks realistic, it looks to what a real human being would look like, so you enjoy it either way, you're going to buy it.
This isn't some custom demo that we made just for this show. That's our game, right? All the sequences you just saw in that trailer are all pulled right out of our game, running real time in Unreal Engine 5, no smoke and mirrors. Yeah. And I think it's because we've been chasing the same dream, right? Which is to create richly interactive experiences that are cinematic, immersive, and make you feel like you're in a movie.
Because these people don't believe in player engagement. They believe that graphics is the best way to engage a player. And it is attractive because people like attractive things. But that is not why people play video games. Gameplay matters. From Software knew that. And if you think about From Software games, they didn't really have the best visuals at the beginning, even when the industry was still not at its peak. They didn't have the best visuals, but they sold you with gameplay and later upgraded to having better visuals. I played Sekiro many times, and I can't tell you enough how beautiful that game looks. What the industry needs to do is cut costs. Games are becoming way too expensive, and it's unrealistic. And the only way to save this industry is to cut costs. Go back to the days where games used to be 30, 40, 50 million. I know you might say it's impossible, but it is very possible. Go back to the days of 100 million being a standard. You can't keep this 200 to 250 to 300 price tag, because as a result, they are going to want to inflate the costs. That's why people are assuming GTA is going to be $100, because if they spent over $1 billion invested in that game, I don't think they'll be shy or ashamed to increase the price tag to 100. And imagine, most of these games have special or deluxe editions, which are usually about $100, even though the base game is about $70. What would happen if games become $100? What will happen then? If games become $100, here's one thing you have to understand. If you buy 5 of those games, you could literally buy a brand new console. 5 games would be equivalent to a brand new console. So at that point, you have to ask yourself, is this a medium of entertainment and fun, or a luxury medium? Because this is not sustainable. And I think the gaming industry needs to learn a lot of lessons from the mistakes they made in 2024 so that they don't repeat it. And if you're able to watch for this long, thanks for watching. And if you have anything to say, please let me know in the comment section. Until the next video.